Okay, so welcome to the final episode of the first season of the Practice Corner. And I thought in this final case study, learning or using what we've already learned in this lesson series, is AC/DC, arguably possibly my favourite band like ever for years, Highway to Hell. This is a good one because we're using all the chords we've studied in this lesson series, and we're also incorporating elements that we've used from Back to the Drawing Board, last year's Back to the Drawing Board series, which I'll link the playlist in the corner when we look at syncopation. So the song can be split up into, we're going to look at 3 sections, so I will list them here. So for example, we start with an intro, which is basically the verse progression, and then we move into verse where Bond starts singing, and then we have a chorus, so these are the 2 separate sections. And then we move back into verse 2, we have another chorus, and then the final section we're going to learn today is the pre-solo, moving into, of course, the solo, which is effectively the chorus, and the outro, which is the chorus repeated. This song is around about, well, I've timed it, just recorded the stuff at the practice corner itself at 110 BPM. I think it's slightly faster. I think it's about 115, but again, whatever's most comfortable for you really when learning this. So if you want to play it faster, then go ahead and knock yourself out, or if you want to take your time and enjoy it, then play it a little bit slower. Anyway, let me wipe this down and join me back at the board, and we will look at the verse progressions. Now, introducing Australian accent now, what makes this song a really interesting song? Alright, enough of that. Right, so what makes this song really interesting is the chords are simple, the structure's simple, the typical AC/DC formula making it such a great hook of a song. However, it's the groove that is the key to this, so this is why your syncopation comes in handy. And again, I'll refer you to the Practice Corner episode that we did last year. You're going to be using a total of 3 chords for this, and you start off basically with an 8th beat pattern, so taka, 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 taka. So listen to the drums when they come in. Taka, taka, taka. But it's actually Angus that starts this song in particular. And what you need to do is you need to be your own metronome fixed at 110, and you need to look out for where you come in with the A chord. So we start off on the 3 hand, so 1, 2, 3, ga da da, 3 ga da da, ga da da, ga da da, ga da, and you do that. So here I've omitted this because this is basically the same as these, and then in the final bar here you have like this ga. So this is kind of a ga da da, ga da da, ga da, 2, 3, ga da da, and you start again. So you just have to hum this pattern to you. So these V's here mean upstrokes, downstrokes. So when you're playing, as we'll demonstrate in the corner, you start off with an upstroke on the beat if it's 8th note. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, ga da da, 2, 3, ga da da, 3 ga da da, ga da da, dan da da, and repeat ga da da. And you do this for a total of 4 times, and on the 3rd time, which I will now pause and draw on the board, and we'll have a look at that. Okay, and this is a shambles. This is a shambles YouTube channel. Who cares anyway? You know, like whatever. You know, it's a free lesson, so fuck off if you don't like it. Right, okay. On the 4th time, rather than going to the A to repeat the cycle, you then hold an E chord as a palm muted choke. So here I've written this. I'm on the highway to hell. I'll put a palm mute here to signal that. So we'll practice that in the corner anyway. It'll become more clearer. But I'll take a picture of this too to have in the corner so that you can play along to that. So anyway, see you there. So in the final episode of the Practice Corner, we're going to study Highway to Hell. And this is a good one because there is only 3 parts we're going to learn. That's the verse progressions, the chorus progression, and the pre-solo progression, which then leads back into the chorus progression to conclude the song. And for this song in particular, you're only going to need to know 4 chords. And these are A major, D major, G major, and E major. The important thing about this song in particular is more the rhythm and the syncopation as to how you play this. But before we get on to that, let's take a look at those 4 chords. So in previous lessons, which I'll link in the corner, major chords, we looked at, of course, the major chords involved with this, but to recap on what these are like, the A chord in particular is going to be played by taking your index finger and placing this on the second fret of the D, G and B string to effectively give you the E note, the A note and the C sharp note. And the top string is open, so the E, and also the bottom string here, or the kind of lower string, is the A, giving you the E major chord. I also hope, by the way, that you like I'm playing with an SG. Of course, this is AC/DC, so you've got to get into the kind of mindset. Although I'm not going to do a duck walk. Okay, the next chord is going to be the D major chord, and that is basically the open D. You then place your index finger on the second fret of the G string to give you an A. You then take your third finger and place this on the third fret of the B string to give you the D. And you then place your second finger on the second fret of the E string to give you F sharp. The wonderful thing about this song in particular is the D chord transitions into the G chord. So in an earlier lesson when I talked about progressions, you'll notice this pivot. In fact, it occurs in Live Forever as well, actually. Remember the G to the D, but only this time we're going from D to G. So you basically change from that shape to then this shape. So if you notice, the third finger never moves and you pivot around that. So what happens here is you take the D shape and you move your second finger up to the third fret of the E string to give you G. This should then mute the A string. We don't want to be playing that. We'll then have an open D. We then have an open G. We then, where the third finger remains there, of course. So that's now the third fret still of the B string, giving you D. And we now play the pinky finger now drops onto the third fret of the E string, giving you G. These chords are typically played throughout for 3 cycles on the verses in particular. The intro they're played twice over, as I'll demonstrate. When the drums kick in and then Bon Scott starts singing. On the final section, as we discussed at the board, you then play an E major chord, which is effectively the second finger dropping onto the second fret of the B string, giving you B. Sorry, the A string giving you B. The third finger is on the second fret of the D string, giving you E. And the first finger is on the G string, first fret, giving you G sharp. And all the other strings are open. One thing to consider going forward and building on further lessons for this is that you can strum the entire chord, and that's fair game, but AC/DC would typically chug, so they'll palm mute it. And they might even play the power chord version of this as well, so that is something to consider when playing this. There is no right way or wrong way of doing it. E major works just as fine. Now, it's 4 chords, but the really interesting thing about the AC/DC groove is their syncopation. So when we looked at Oasis and the Sex Pistols, they typically play on beat, meaning they start on a 1 count or 2 count. Angus, if you listen to it very closely, actually plays offbeat a little bit, so you'll hear him playing on the offbeat note. And that's a good example of AC/DC. So here, for example, I have a metronome set at 110 BPM. I think the song is a little bit quicker, maybe 115. But you'll notice when Angus starts on the A chord, when you're holding that, he'll play it on the 3 hand. So you go 1, 2, 3, ga-na-na, 1, 2, 3, ga-na-na, 1, 2, 3, ga-na-na, ga-na-na, dan, dan, dan. And that's a really nice type of offbeat groove in a way, really, that adds this sort of like, the space is there for Angus to play in and around that, and Malcolm to play in and around that, giving that really cool, unique, groove that gets people dancing kind of feel to it. So The introduction starts off with the A chord, moves to then D chord and G chord, of course. And we do that twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one lot. So we do that twice, and then we move into the verse, which is 3 lots of that. And on the final lot, when we come into the chorus, you will hear this instead, as we discussed at the board. 2, 3, 4. And that leads you into the chorus. One thing to consider about offbeat playing too, as well as important, is that always look for an upstroke first. It's played in 8th note feel, taka, 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 ta. So when you're aiming for that 3-hand, to drop into that 3-hand, if you're tapping your foot, is to just aim for an upstroke first to give you that kind of like drop in, if you like, really. So when you go the 1, 2, 3, up, down, up, 2, 3, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up. That's again the groove there. Hum it and sing it to yourself. Don't be afraid. You know, I know my walls are thin, and my neighbours can hear what I'm doing, but you know, like this is one of those things where how you learn is to vocalize this idea, to internalize it. So you can even mute the strings. 2, 3, 4. To give you that kind of like vibe and feel of it as they're playing through the verse. I should also put a picture as well of what we discussed at the board as well, because I do this first and I do the board thing just to kind of emphasize these points. They're terrible lessons, I know. Get yourself some proper lessons. Right, anyway, let's take a look at the chorus. The chorus to this is nice and simple. It's 4 lots of this particular cycle here. So we have an A chord that's held for 6 beats, and on the 3rd and 4th beat of the 2nd bar of this, you then switch between the G, D. Dun, dun, D, 4, 1, 2, and ding, 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 ding. You can embellish this a bit more, some upstrokes or some fancy rhythm if you like. I think at the corner, I just thought I'd put downstroke here just to emphasize this chord structure. I also thought it'd be worth mentioning that you can accent these 2 notes here. Bing, bong, ding, 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 bing, bong. Just to give you that kind of, a bit more, some accents to it in AC/DC stuff to give it that real interest too. And we do this a total of 4 times to get back into your verse. However, after verse 2, you have the chorus, and then you have what's called a pre-solo, with the solos over the chorus. So you've already learned that, so we do the chorus over that, and that leads you to the outro. But the pre-solo involves this very interesting rhythm here, actually. So we have this don't stop me, into the guitar like AC/DC. This is interesting here because this is called a clave type rhythm, which is another type of syncopated rhythm with some accents in it too. And we also did that in last year's Back to the Drawing Board. So here, for example, a brief recap is that we have this da, ge, don. So you do it on the 1, which would be downstroke, on the 2-hand upstroke, and then on the downstroke of this bar, downstroke, so da, ging, gong, let the chord ring. And then you go dang, ding, dong, ge, dan, dan, gets you into the solo. So this pattern here, so this sort of offbeat here is very familiar with Cuban style music, or it has influence in jazz and other things, including AC/DC type rhythms. It features a lot in music when you see it really, when this type of pattern occurs really, that's offbeat, and this is called the san-clave. And we do the same again here for the 3rd beat of this, and then in the final beat we sort of continue it a little bit, so we hit an upstroke on the 2nd, so dang, ging, dang, ging, and then here we finish it on the 3 and 4 with the drums go to release the solo, and that's how this particular goes. So I'll take another screenshot of that, and then let's have a look at that in the practice corner. The chorus has more oomph to it, so there's less of this sort of like stoccation, if you like, where the chord stops. So your chords are ringing through throughout. It just gives you that very powerful highway to hell kind of thing. You start on the A chord, and it's basically just like a straight. This time we're not having an offbeat note. And you then move to the D and then the G. You move backwards and forwards between them for a couple of beats. It's worth just looking at what we've got in the corner here, because I will put in what was discussed at the marker board, and it should sound effectively like this after the E chord's played. And that's one lot of them. There are a total of 4. This also occurs through the guitar solo, so which I'll play 4 lots of these for the guitar solo, which would sound like the following. 2, 3, 4. Again goes back into your outro, which is I think 8 blocks of these with a space in between somewhere to add some tension. It's one of the things where you have to just go and listen to the actual recording itself to get a real feel, but those are effectively your main progressions. Whilst that's your chorus progression, which is repeated 4 times, and then there's a pause and then the song goes back into verse 2. There's a slight difference from that of verses 2 chorus to that of the pre-solo and solo. So the solo follows the chorus chords with Angus's solo on it. There's a section where a pre-solo is played where there's an alternation quickly between the G and D, which again is a very simple progression because only there's a pivot finger there, as we discussed. Together, this should sound like this when played. So you'll have this effectively, don't stop me, and then you have your chorus chords of the solo together, and I'll put the solo in the corner as well for this. This should sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, that progression also occurs through the outro, which is played with a solo and all sorts of crazy shit going on there. But that is effectively what you need for Highway to Hell. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the last Practice Corner episode for a while. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next. I might put some just more goofy and weird shit on YouTube or whatever. I haven't done a short in quite a while, so I might do that. But I hope you like. If you do, please subscribe. Share the love, so to speak. Yeah, I hope to see you further on down the line on the Highway to Hell. That is this YouTube channel. Anyway, bye bye.